In the last section, we installed Cert Manager into our Kubernetes cluster. We're now going to briefly discuss exactly what we have to create to integrate Cert Manager into our project and get it working the way we expect. All right, so a couple diagrams here. All right, here we go. So in this diagram, at the very center is Cert Manager. As you just saw, when we installed it, it created a deployment, which in turn created a pod. There's also a service account and a cluster role binding in there as well, which essentially gave that pod the ability to manipulate our cluster and create different resources inside of it. So Cert Manager by itself, you can really just think of as essentially being a pod that is going to reach out to our cluster and kind of mess around with things. And then at some point in time, it's going to set up a route handler to respond to the Let's Encrypt verification request. Now, in order to get Cert Manager working the way that it expects, there are two different objects that we have to create with two different config files inside of our project. So these are two types of objects that we're going to create in the same way that we've created many other objects before. We'll talk about the issuer first over here on the right-hand side. The issuer is going to be a config file that's going to tell the Cert Manager how to reach out to a certificate authority and obtain a certificate. So in our case, we are using a certificate authority, or essentially an entity who issues certificates of Let's Encrypt. Let's Encrypt publishes some public APIs and API addresses to access those out for you to read very easily. So we're going to create this issuer object that says essentially we want to use Let's Encrypt, and here's the address to the API to use to initiate this entire exchange process. So that's the purpose of the issuer. It's just telling Cert Manager where to go to attempt to initiate this verification process. The reason that we create this in an object is that Cert Manager is set up to allow you to define several different